During the wilderness years of Doctor Who, between the classic series being cancelled in 1989 and the new series premiering in 2005, there were many attempts to revive Doctor Who that ultimately fell through. And in the mid-90s, one attempt to revive Doctor Who was actually one to reboot it and start fresh continuity-wise. This was known as the Leaky Bible, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So firstly, let's define what Bible means in this context, because unless you're big into television production, you probably don't know what I mean by the Leaky Bible. When you're pitching a TV show to a studio or a network, there are a few things you can do to bring across your vision for the show. You can just do an in-person pitch, you can write a script for it, or you can write a Bible. Similarly to how the Christian Bible is supposed to set up the world we live in and explain everything, a show Bible is a document that's supposed to explain and introduce the world and characters of the show to whoever is being pitched the show. A Bible might contain pages talking about specific characters, locations, more abstract properties of the universe, and usually quick episode summaries for ideas the creator has for various episodes. So now that you know generally what the Leaky Bible is, let's talk about the story behind it. Phillip Segal was a longtime Doctor Who fan. Ever since 1988, he had talked to the BBC about producing a Doctor Who movie. When he started, he wanted to do this because he saw the show was dying and wanted to breathe life back into it with a feature film. But when the show was cancelled in 1989, it became a way to bring the show back. If he could make this movie and it was successful, maybe the show could come back. But the BBC was no longer interested. Segal had to put working on the project on hold when he started working for ABC. But eventually he found himself working for Amblin Entertainment. Amblin Entertainment was Steven Spielberg's production company that was currently in a multi-year deal with Universal. Spielberg was a fan of Doctor Who too, and so Segal was able to convince him to start talks with the BBC about co-producing a revival of the show, which would begin with a TV movie pilot that would hopefully lead to a series. The BBC had been in talks with plenty of companies over the past few years about potentially making a Doctor Who revival, but they all fell through. But it seemed they had interest in working with Amblin Entertainment and Universal, two big names in sci-fi and the entertainment business in general. But now that the project was greenlit, they needed a head writer. Universal liked a writer named John Leekley, who Segal had previously met at ABC. So Segal hired him in the early half of 1994 as the first head writer of this Doctor Who revival. He would start by writing this series Bible and then writing the script for the TV movie. Things were going very well. Amblin was in talks with multiple companies about airing the show, with their favorite being Fox, and set up a pitch meeting for the show in January of 1995. Things seemed to be going on their way. Leakley began fleshing out a couple story ideas for series episodes. The casting process began that would eventually land them with Paul McGann, and Segal, Peter Wagg, and Leakley even took a trip to Colorado and Utah to do location scouting for places to film the Gallifrey scenes in the movie. But Steven Spielberg ended up pulling the plug on John Leekley's version of the movie in October of 1994. There's been debate over why. Some say he just didn't like the writing. Some say he thought it was too similar to Indiana Jones. Some say that he made the decision while editing Schindler's List and wanted to make something more lighthearted. Either way, Leakley was out as head writer. Robert DeLaurentis was hired as the new head writer and in just 6 weeks wrote a newer, more lighthearted script based on the basic concepts from Leakley's version. But Fox decided to pass on the show because it wasn't mainstream enough and was too expensive. This meant DeLaurentis too was out. The project was considered dead for a short period of time until Fox made a separate division for TV movies, and they picked up the TV movie. Matthew Jacobs was hired as the new writer, and the rest is history, with the decision being made to be more faithful to the original show. So what would Leakley's version be like? As I said before, it would have been a full reboot. Now, the script for the pilot differed a little from the Bible, so let's start with the Bible. In the Bible, which named Leakley's version of the show the Chronicles of Doctor Who, the show would have started with the Doctor's origin. The Doctor lives on Gallifrey, where Barusa is the Lord President. Barusa's son Ulysses was a great explorer that went missing long ago. When Barusa is on his deathbed, it's only a matter of time until his evil grandson, the Master, takes over. But on his deathbed, Borusa reveals to the Doctor that he's the Master's younger half-brother, and also Borusa's grandson, and that he must steal a TARDIS and search the universe for his father Ulysses to take the place of the Master as Lord President. The Doctor, now a fugitive of the Time Lords, steals the TARDIS, which now houses the spirit of the deceased Borusa, and they go on a quest to find Ulysses. The Bible also contains a story outline for the pilot, which is basically a remake of Genesis of the Daleks, but it was meant to introduce the Daleks and redesign them to be scarier, referred to in retrospect as Spider-Daleks. After this, we get various synopses for other stories. These include The Pirates, a version of The Smugglers where the Doctor believes Blackbeard is Ulysses in disguise, a version of The Talons of Wang Chiang set in New York City, a version of Earthshock meant to introduce a more primal and piratical version of the Cybermen called The Cybes, a remake of Horror of Fang Rock, a version of The Celestial Toymaker where the Toymaker is revealed to be controlled by the Master, Don't Shoot, I'm the Doctor, a more historically accurate version of The Gunfighters, Tomb of the Cybes, a remake of Tomb of the Cybermen where the Cybes are released by the Master, The Yeti, a version of the Abominable Snowmen, but instead of the Great Intelligence, it's revealed that they're actually the last surviving Neanderthals, and a remake of The Ark in Space. The pilot script would end up being Genesis of the Daleks, but with a companion named Lizzie added in and the Master being added as an additional antagonist near the end. The initial draft also introduced the Cybes in a brief appearance, but they were taken out later. The Castellan was later added as a sidekick to the Master. The Robert DeLaurentis version of the script also added a Gallifreyan assistant to the Doctor named Sherman who gets killed off, has the Master disguise himself as Ulysses to fool the Doctor, and weirdly gives Lizzie a bulldog named Winston that the Doctor leaves to have adventures with instead of Lizzie, who stays on Earth. So there you have it, the Doctor Who reboot that almost was, the Chronicles of Doctor Who. What do you think of these plans? They tend to be pretty controversial among fans, but personally, with a few tweaks, I don't think I would have minded watching this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for daily videos on the franchises you love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.